Season 2, Episode 1, About Us.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to our podcast, The War at Home. My name is Angela. I will be your host today, and we're joined today by our CEO, Ryan, and our Global Ambassador, Rich, to share a little bit about what IFI is. And they have both been doing this very long time, so they will share a little bit of why. We thought it would be interesting for us to include staff, the people that you meet on a daily basis, to share a little bit of their reason why they're doing this. So welcome, Ryan and Rich.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, of course. It's a pleasure. So if you're meeting some students for the first time and they ask you this question about what is IFI, how would you summarize IFI to them?
IFI are people who have been touched with the love of God, who want to share their lives and that love with international students so they can feel welcomed and valued and encouraged to fulfill their dreams and visions and their destiny. So that's what we're about. We're about serving international students in the context of God's love.
Yeah, and I would just add that I try to help, like Rich said, that them understand that there are local Christians who feel loved by God, and because of God's love, want to welcome people from all different countries, all different religions into friendship with them. Because of God's love for them, they want to offer practical help to these international students, whether it's help with our laws or help with school or help with practical things like driving a car, and truly are genuinely interested in these international students. And I think that's very uncommon, for strangers or people from different countries to be interested in one another. And so I try to convey that this really is a genuine desire from these local Christians.
Yes. Nice.
Hey, that was a good answer.
Hey, you too.
Yeah, that's very good.
I mean, he's the CEO. So you have mentioned that we're trying to do this locally in a practical way. And I know IFI has several locations throughout the country. Can you give us a little bit more details about, what type of things that they offer? What are things that student can be involved with or get engaged with?
Sure. I can start, and Rich, you fill in.
Okay.
Some of the things that I've always really enjoyed about IFI is that it connects students in one-on-one friendship partners. Because I think that one-on-one friendship is where so much of IFI services really live. It's the genuinely interested local American Christian who wants to be connected in friendship with the international student who genuinely wants to meet an American. So through friendship partners, all that practical help can come out. That belonging to a community is through that one person. I also really like the airport or bus pickup that we offer to international students. It's not because we're trying to compete with Uber, but
it's essential and it's free.
The person who picks you up genuinely cares about you, wants to get to know you, wants to help you in ways that maybe they hadn't planned when they first picked you up. Maybe you reveal like, hey, I actually need some help getting furniture. And they're willing to say, oh, let me see how I can go further for you. So anything that we can do to match people one-on-one, whether it's in something practical like airport pickup or to something a little bit more general like we're going to become friends for the next semester, is something that I really love about IFI.
Nice. How about you, Rich?
Well, there's that practical level when students first arrive that they sometimes have needs, and we want to address those needs. But there's post that, and it's always like in the context of relationship, but I think that the opportunities for culture exchange are very important. It's hard to enter into the culture and the society without those insiders, without those cultural interpreters, without the people who can really help you navigate what is the inner meaning of those things.
Yes.
And so that's why things like going into a home for a holiday, I think are very important. As we're filming this podcast, I'm getting ready to send students, it's almost Christmas time, for them to experience a weekend in a family, see how they prepare for celebrating Christmas, being able to be part of their family celebration. So I think those are really critical to be able to get inside the culture through the connection with Americans who are welcoming them.
Yeah, that is really cool. And obviously I'm dressed for the occasion during the holiday. And I think something Rich did mention that I personally, as an international student, feel very important was the welcomingness of, especially in holiday season, you know, you're alone in a foreign country, in a language that you're not familiar with. And I think it's always cool to see how other countries done their holiday traditions, but also just feel that belongingness of like, okay, I don't have to spend this alone, and I don't need to, you know, be in my apartment while outside snowing 30-degree weather. Yes. So it's really cool to see how so many volunteers and local Christians are willing to open up their house to do that.
And I commend you, because I know you're going to be inviting people into your home at this holiday time.
Yes.
I'm encouraged to hear that.
Yes. So I'm also very excited that, you know, God has provided enough for me to be in a position where I can return to the community that has given me a lot. So yeah, that's really cool. So a little bit about IFI's background, because obviously both of you have been here longer than maybe longer than I have been alive. So I wanted to hear a little bit how long have you guys been serving or have been volunteering with IFI, and how did it start?
So 34 years for me, yes. Although I was also serving among international students for 11 years before coming to IFI.
Wow.
So it's already 46 years.
Yep, that's double of all I have been alive, so.
Yeah. But, you know, I started out when I was young, when I was 24 years old. I got a vision for serving cross-culturally, and I started with international students in Buffalo, New York. Then I moved to Athens, Ohio, and served there for 4 years, and then came to Columbus. And the reason I came to Columbus was because of IFI.
Wow.
Because I had developed a relationship with the founders of IFI. IFI began in 1979. There was a particular church in Columbus that really had a desire to serve international students. The pastor of that church really wanted his church to be involved, but he recognized there were so many international students coming to Columbus that his church by itself could not serve all their needs. And so he wanted to see an organization that could make it possible for all the followers of Jesus in Columbus and now in many cities to have that opportunity to serve international students. Thus, IFI as an independent agency, as an organization that could be neutral in mobilizing and serving all of the international students and connecting them with followers of Jesus from local churches. That's how IFI began in 1979. So when I was in Athens, we started doing some joint things together, and it was time for us to move from Athens, began to explore, like, hey, what would it look like for me to come to IFI? Now, at that point, there were just two staff, the two founders. From 1979 to 1991, that was it. Columbus, Ohio, two staff. And there was a realization that with my gifts in leadership and what their heart was, and that we could see the organization grow.
Wow. That's so cool that they just did that, like, for 10-something years. And
well, I think the founder of IFI, wonderful man, Phil Saxa and Mabel, they were very focused on what they were doing in building relationships, but it wasn't their heart or vision to see it grow in the way that I had a vision for it. Yeah, which was fine. They were faithful. They provided a great foundation. They really put into place the things that were necessary. But yeah.
Nice. That's really cool. Thanks for sharing. So what about you?
Yeah, for me, it's a little bit shorter. I have been involved with IFI for 15 years, and that started as a volunteer when I was a college student in University of Cincinnati, and started meeting students through some of the regular Bible study activities down there, and really just fell in love with the friendships that I was making, especially with students from China, students from India, even a student from Madagascar.
Wow. And that's rare.
God really brought some special people together, and they were special to me. And it was through that really excitement growing there, that when my family made a big move to Columbus, Ohio, I actually got in touch with Rich because I had known he was serving in Columbus.
Yeah.
And that's when the door opened to me actually joining staff. So I've been on staff for 10 years with IFI and serving as CEO for 2. And it has, really just been a joy for my family to be involved in.
Nice. That's so exciting. Is there any particular pivotal point that you could remember of like, I think this is what I wanted to do, or think about throughout the years? I know it's a little longer for you, Rich. It might be hard digging out the memories.
Oh no,
but
not at all. Very easy.
Yeah. So is there any particular memorable time or moments that reminds you of like, this is my reason of continue doing this throughout the years?
Yes. So actually, the very first international student that I can remember meeting was a woman who in high school went to study in Bolivia, South America, as an exchange student, 1 year, international student, and came back and wanted to meet me. And so we met and we got married. But, her life changed as an international student. She actually met followers of Jesus in Bolivia, and through that experience, her life radically changed. It didn't connect at my point at that time, like, oh, wow. So becoming an international student can be a life-changing experience. I mean, it didn't really think about that.
Yeah.
But then after we got married, we went to a conference together. At that conference, they had a display of the situation in the world among the nations of the world and what the needs were. And they gave a very clear presentation of God's heart for the world and how God loved all the nations and how God had a plan to bless all the nations. And they gave a very strong challenge at that conference that people should go overseas to address those needs and to be able to serve in that way. And I was like, oh, this is so sad because I can't leave the United States because my wife had an obligation to the U.S. government that was going to take years to fulfill. It ended up taking 10 years to fulfill.
Wow.
And so we're like, oh, if this is the only way really to share in God's heart for the nations is to go overseas. And it was after that I learned that God was sending people from the world, from the nations, to study in the United States. And it was like a light went on. It was like, oh, God has a second way of blessing all the nations. So as soon as I found that out, it clicked for me.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is it. This is what I want to do.
Nice.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
Yeah, I'd say for me, a lot of things clicked the first time I volunteered for IFI. And I think maybe some of the background was that when I was a high schooler, I was an exchange student to Barcelona, Spain.
Oh,
And
are you fluent in Spanish?
I used to be intermediate fluent,
Okay.
and I have lost a lot of that. But in high school, that was my prime.
Nice.
And so I'd had some intercultural experiences. When I went to a Bible discussion group to volunteer for IFI, I immediately realized I am the minority here. And that was really unusual. Even when I was an exchange student in Spain, I kind of blended in just by the way that I looked.
Yeah.
Not so at this Bible study. And it just shocked me and it made me realize, wow, there are a real variety of cultures and I have so much to learn. But I think because of the seed of that high school exchange, I was really drawn to it. But it was really that there was one Chinese student that walked up to me and he knew I was a volunteer and he just point blank asked me, "Are you a Christian?" And like in American culture, that seemed really direct. And I said, "Yes, I am." And he said, "Okay, can you tell me about Jesus? I saw him in a movie."
Wow.
And I was just really thrown off because it was such a type of interaction that Americans probably wouldn't have with each other. But it just demonstrated to me that God's heart was so much for all of these students. And this student just had deep curiosity about what do Americans believe? What do Christians believe? And so it really was that first interaction that I felt like, God has a purpose for me to be here, to become friends with students from all different countries, to be able to share what He's been teaching me about His way and who His Son Jesus is, and the type of lifestyle of giving your life as a sacrifice for other people. People want to know about that, and they'll even point blank directly ask you.
Yes.
So after that experience, I just felt like I need to keep coming back to this group. This is a really interesting group of people. They want to become friends with each other. They want to ask life's deep questions. So it didn't take any more. Just one time.
Wow. That's really cool. Yeah. I think for me, I can definitely relate to that experiences of like a lot of students, or even myself when I was at college. I was a student leader. So a lot of students who are my peers, they would come and be like, why are you doing this? And I think a lot of, because services that we offer or the culture that we come from is, if you're doing something for someone, there's always something you're asking in return. There's always, a favor you're going to ask later on, or, life support, money, or relationship, business, trading, whatever, that is required later on. There's always something that you should be asking in return. So it's always surprise to many of the students and myself at first too. It's like, you're spending a lot of gas money, you're spending all these money providing food, you're opening your house. This is a lot to facilitate. Like, why doing this for free? And so it's very inspiring to see how, a student can experience that and then get engaged and, like you said, continue having that curiosity to explore more what it means and why we serve.
There's a lot of transactional hospitality in the world. And that was one of the amazing things about the story of Jesus in the Bible, is sometimes He was invited in transactionally, like because people wanted status or other things. But He taught about open-ended hospitality, just giving without having expectations of the other person. And that's a beautiful model to follow. He tells a story of a person who is beaten up on the road, and someone comes along and finds him and puts him on his own donkey and brings him to an inn and pays the way for him to be taken care of. And it's like he didn't expect anything of the guy. That's the model we want to follow.
Yes. Thanks for sharing. Let's see. So I know for the past questions that we have mentioned a lot, this is what we believe in. Like you said, this is the model that Jesus has taught us to, serve. Does student need to be Christian to be participating with us?
Absolutely not. In fact, God tells us and all of His people to love those who are strangers or foreigners. And I think one of the defining factors of a foreigner is that you don't share the same values. You don't come from the same place. Your culture and your family are different. And that's just the DNA of who we are. That's why we exist. And so most of the students that IFI serves do not share the Christian religion, do not share the same values. But we believe that God has really beautifully created every single culture. And there's something every culture has to share. We really enjoy the cultural exchange, like Rich had mentioned. And we also enjoy their curiosity of wondering, well, what does God have to say? Who was Jesus? What is Jesus' way? And what does the Bible have to teach? And so we're happy to share that with students as well.
I think culture exchange, part of being respectful is listening and learning from other people and being willing to consider why people have differences. And I think one of the best advantages of international students when they come is to realize that all of us, when we were raised in our families and our culture, we had certain assumptions that we never thought about, we never had a chance to question. And when we're in another culture and interact with people who believe something different, we can examine those. And we can say, so why do I believe those things? And why does my culture follow those things? And through that exploration, we can learn new things. And I think it's It's one of the great advantages, much more even than getting your education and your degree, is being able to look at life and understand what is the things that are true and right, and what should I follow? What should I believe? What is my purpose in life? These are the questions we should be able to examine because of being in a cross-cultural situation.
Yes. And I definitely agree with that. I think beyond that too, those conversations or those relationships are the things that we'll be able to carry beyond college. Like, your degree is just going to be a paper in the wall by the end of the day. But those relationships are the valuables that we can continue and learning wisdoms from one another in different cultural contexts as well. It's something that we can continue to do even outside of the college context. So that's really cool.
We've already talked about the fact that in the practice of hospitality, we should extend it without expectation of other people. And I think it's very important as people who are followers of Jesus, that someone who is not a follower, that we communicate very clearly that our love and friendship is unconditional, that we're not placing expectations on them. Even if they have no spiritual interest, even if there's nothing at all that they want to explore, we still value that friendship and that relationship in a way that we want the person to feel comfortable. We don't want the person to ever feel any pressure or inducement or anything like that. We want to be open books to share who we are. That's part of friendship, right? I mean, because we want the same thing from them. I hope they want the same thing from us, that we don't hide who we are. But at the same time, we're not saying you have to become like me. And so I hope that students will really experience that and understand that about us, that they can be trusting that we don't have an ulterior motive, that we're not trying to convert them, we're not proselytizing them, but we're sharing who we are with them.
Yeah, I just agree with that and say that a friendship can't really be genuine unless both people are honest with each other. And I think that's one of the beautiful things that students can get at IFI is a friendship with a local American Christian that truly is going to be open with them about who they are and is going to want to get to know the student. And so there can be that cultural exchange, and the student can feel comfortable asking questions without any pressure to change who they are, to change their values, but can explore somebody else's values. And I think that's a really beautiful thing about IFI.
So for a student who are thinking about becoming international students or moving abroad, living in a different country, what would the encouragement that you would share with them, or something that you would suggest them, or the advice that you give them before they arrive?
I would just say that connecting with some group like IFI is probably one of the most important things you can do in preparation, because the way that you are welcomed and the help you have when you arrive, I think really determines a lot of the quality of your overseas education. I got to be an exchange student later in my life in Beijing, China, and was welcomed by a Chinese family that really wanted to live their life openly as well, to serve other people. And they really were the ones who introduced me to other friends. They made me feel secure in a place where I was feeling maybe vulnerable or lonely. And that's one of the greatest values IFI has to give an international student from day one. Is when they arrive, they can meet somebody who cares about them, who will help them navigate the many different questions that come. So consider where you're going. Is there somebody like IFI that you can connect with? Maybe you have a personal connection that knows somebody in that city who's willing to be an ambassador for you, a guide for you.
Well, I'd love to talk to any international students that are listening to this, either the ones that are considering coming or that are here, that you realize we want to get past stereotypes. I'm sure it's really unfortunate when Americans have a lens to view you and your country through reading news reports. That is not the best way to really understand people in another country. We recognize that many students are concerned, for example, about safety issues in the United States, whether it's safe to come here. And I think, the reality is, while a lot of crime and things are reported in the United States, that the most experiences is going to be, the community is going to be a safe place. I mean, can't guarantee anything, but my point is, we shouldn't let fears and just social media and news inform us. That's why I was talking about getting inside of the culture by connecting with people. And so I would say, if you can have people that are going to welcome you, that is the most significant thing. And then I think the second thing is to really understand, to not be a scroller, to spend your time scrolling on social media, but to spend your time building relationships. That is going to be the way that you're going to have the best and most productive experience in the United States. And my experience with, especially if you're younger, that you're going to have to be countercultural in order to not be self-dependent, not to stay within your own community, not to spend a lot of time scrolling, but to put a value on building relationships. That I would encourage and challenge you to have that mindset and that commitment to do that.
That's really cool. Thanks for sharing. So we have talked a lot about what a student experience will look like, from arriving to being engaged to the community, and even beyond, of like building friendships and just having that lifelong relationship continuously. But what would that look like as someone who wanted to be involved as a volunteer? How can people get involved, and what does that look like for them?
I think it's important, to recognize the limitations we have, the capacity limitations of how many relationships we can maintain at a time.
Yes.
That's why I think the most valuable thing is to build relationships with just a few people. For a volunteer, depending on how much time they have, just focus on one or two international students that they can go deeper with and have an ongoing relationship with. Certainly I know volunteers who've attended students' weddings back home, who've gone to visit them. And so I would say that is really great to have. But also let's be realistic, not every relationship works out. Just because we enter into a relationship doesn't mean it's going to last forever, but the potential is there. And I would say if we are consistent and we take the time to build relationships, they can become lifelong relationships.
I'd also encourage volunteers to realize that you can serve an international student in whatever life stage they're in. And I think IFI's ministry is very flexible in the types of opportunities it offers. For instance, when I first started volunteering, I was a college student myself. So I had unlimited time and almost no responsibility.
Yes.
So I could do...
You didn't study?
I had extra capacity on top of that.
There's no responsibility.
That's right. And so, I felt like I could spend incredible amounts of time in the evening with international students. I could go to every event that IFI had available. But then I got married, and then I had children, and I had to realize my responsibilities to my children and to my wife. IFI has a lot of different types of programs that you can fit within your lifestyle. And I found people that realize they have more opportunity when they are, empty nesters or retired. They can come in through friendship partners, or maybe they're more available at the odd hours for airport pickup. That's harder for me and my family, but we can be more flexible with a student who we can become friendship partners with. So I don't think there's a stage of life that an international student couldn't connect with a volunteer, and would really encourage people to think, what time do I have available, and consider whether it's activities or just one-on-one partnerships that they can make.
Yeah, that's cool. And I think for us international students too, speaking from a perspective, it's also really helpful and eye-opening to have people in different stages of life being part of that serving phases. So you can hang out with the college volunteers, do college things because you guys are peer and share the same life experience that you're currently going through. But it's also very important to see someone who's married and have family with young kids, hang out with the kids and learn about what life looks like later on, or sharing with the retired individuals. They are, have done more lives than you have been alive, so more wisdoms in life and what to do, a lot of things, and guidance in different perspective. I think it's always really helpful to have that.
Yeah. And some students, they miss their dog, and so they can go to a family with a dog and hang out with the dog.
Yes, that's me personally. I love dogs. So I think we have chatted a lot about IFI's history and you guys' history as volunteers and now serving on staff. Can you guys, this is a little bit more towards Brian, about what's your vision, kind of coming back from a CEO perspective, what's your vision and where you do see IFI's future being? But I'm sure Rich, as a global ambassador, has something to share, internationally as well. So
Sure. I think the core of what IFI started at, which is extending hospitality to international students, is something that we just want to press into. That is what God has placed us here for. But we also realize that so many of these students can go home to their countries or to another country and really positively impact those countries because they may be able to take positions of influence, whether it's in the government or in business. And so IFI really wants to move more in innovation in that realm to ask, how can we, who are offering friendship, offering hospitality, not only come alongside the experiences that students have while they're here, but how to set them up for success in the next stage of their life. And not just financial success, not just business success, but what is the purpose of their life? What's the impact, positive impact that they could have on their families when they return home, on their communities, even on their countries and their government? And so I feel like IFI is in this place right now where we want to invest more in the roots of our hospitality, but also ask the question, what could we try so that we can help our friends on their next stage of life?
That's really cool. Would you like to add anything?
Well, as I mentioned, I started serving international students in 1980, and at that time, the United States was the premier location for international students to come. It was the desirable place. Now we live in a different world, and now other countries are becoming also desirable places, and educational systems have developed and are very much recruiting and attractive to international students. So I think for IFI, we want to continue to welcome and receive those that come to the United States, and there's still 1 million coming to study here, so we still have a lot to do in terms of trying to meet those needs and serve more students. But there's this global phenomena going on where international students are increasingly going to other countries. Your country, Taiwan, has over 100,000 international students. Korea has over 300,000 international students. And so we're moving in that direction to say, let us be a part of recognizing this aspect of international student ministry. So we've launched a ministry in Korea. We have a ministry in Taiwan. We have a staff person in Egypt who previously, when he was in Sudan, started working with international students. So I hope we can grow that and recognize that we don't want to just be North America focused. We want to be world focused, globally focused, global ambassador. And so I hope that the future of IFI is going to be that we're going to be part of what God is doing among the nations in that way, that we'll see more and more places where we are serving international students outside of North America, and that will be part of the mobilization of followers of Jesus in every country where international students are, to see students serve there as well.
Is there anything else that you guys think that would be important to add about IFI, about what you do, about your position, or anything else that you would like to share that we didn't cover?
I,
Do you have something?
I think that there's a beautiful verse in the Bible that says that God places the lonely in families. And, America is primarily single people. And I think that in the United States that a lot of people struggle with loneliness. And so I think it's really beautiful that people from both sides, those that are singles in America, can recognize that part of the way that their loneliness can be met is also by forming relationships, by becoming hospitable. So it's kind of like a double blessing and a double way that God can meet needs. Family, of course, we hope that there can be a good family unit, an extended family. But I think singles can learn how to work together and create community that other people can be welcomed into, and that international students can experience that as well. The key aspect of belonging is whether or not you feel you can be part of a family. And that's what I think is at the heart of our hospitality extension, is wanting people to know that they're close enough that they can feel part of our family. So that's what I long to see. And the message of the Bible is so beautiful because ultimately it's a message that God wants to include us in His family, that He is the greatest host of all. That in fact, part of becoming part of His family is that we can be adopted into His family. Even though we weren't originally part of the family, we can become part of the family, and that He will welcome us into His home forever. That's such a tremendous message, such a beautiful message. I love that in terms of what we ought to know about God, is that God is the most hospitable God who welcomes us into His family.
One thing that I wanted to share, especially to students who are thinking of coming or going abroad to become an international student, is that this new experience that they're going to embark on, yes, it's something that will probably open up more opportunities for you to have a great career. Yes, it will probably bring honor to your family. And there's a lot of other benefits that maybe they are thinking about. But I wanted to say that there's likely something even bigger that God wants for them. And that there's something really special about taking a journey to a different country, meeting new people, and considering new ideas. And of course, the university is a great place to consider things that you hadn't learned before. So I just want to encourage international students that are thinking of that to realize, this is a big part of your life. This is a time where you may learn answers to life's big questions. You may have relationships that stay with you for the rest of your life. And to be excited, to have anticipation about what might God have in store for you when you take this new big journey. I also want to say something to volunteers, which is that you may have realized that you have the gift of hospitality, of welcoming others, but not really known how to use that in a really significant way, or how to use it in a way that pairs with some of your other interests. And hospitality in the Bible is not just an idea. It's actually, it's more forceful than that. God says, don't forget to show hospitality to strangers. And He promises a blessing related to that, because when some have done that, they've even entertained angels. And so there's a real place for hospitality in the gifts of believers who follow Jesus. So I just want to encourage those who realize, I am gifted in this way, that God has a real purpose for you. And this could be a really great way for you to live out something that you are just really specially gifted with.
So I want to add to that, because I think, depending on how people hear that, they might say, well, I don't have that gift. But I think what I hear you saying is God wants to enable all of us. That's a gift from Him to teach us how to welcome people. So I don't want volunteers to think, well, I'm not very good at cooking, or I'm not very good at this, so therefore I can't do it. I think we can all learn to do it, and to for those that haven't done it before, that's a good thing. We want to provide some tools and some training and some resources that can help people be successful in building cross-cultural relationships. So I also want to encourage and challenge those who haven't done it before to give it a try, to step out in faith, to learn that God wants to bless them through the practice of hospitality. So just to build and to reinforce what Ryan is saying, because I think some people just exclude themselves because they don't think they're very good at it.
Yes.
You know?
Or sometimes it can be very scary, I've
Yeah.
never had strangers in my house before, and what do I do now? But I think, like what Rich says, God does not call the equip, but He equips the call. There are many ways that if you feel led and He's called you, He will, through His strength, you will be able to fill the shoes and be able to rise up to the occasion. So
Well,
thank you guys for
The good news is that he's called the whole community to do this.
Yes. So
Yeah.
you're not doing this alone either.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you so much for you guys sharing, and thank you guys for coming today. I'm sure we have learned a lot about what IFI is and how you guys came to serve and ways to continue being involved in the future. So yeah.
And thank you. Thank you for being a great example of an international student who has been taking what you've learned and had a great experience and now are sharing with other international students. So, yeah, thank you.
I'm honored to be here. So yeah,
Thanks, Angela.
of course.
Looking for an international student community? Join our WhatsApp group or check out our website for an in-person location near you at ifiusa.org.
International friendships.